The Kinky Cocktail Hour is brought to you by Motor Bunny, the world's most powerful saddle-style vibrator that offers fabulous, creative sexual experiences. We use it and it rotates, it vibrates, and it delivers mind-blowing orgasms. Enjoy Motor Bunny as your favorite sex toy. When you order the Motor Bunny, multiple attachments are included along with the Link controller, which allows wireless control from anywhere. Motor Bunny is the world's most powerful saddle-style vibrator on Earth. Use the link in the show notes and spice up your sex life with a Motor Bunny. You're listening to Kinky Cocktail Hour, a conversation between adults about sex-forward relationships, kinky lifestyles, and frank communication. If you're under 18, please stop listening and visit scarletteen.com. Hi, this is Lady Petra.
I'm SafferMaster.
And this is Kinky Cocktail Hour.
Cheers.
Cheers!
Need a straw for this one.
Yeah, almost.
Well, he's got me though. Mm-hmm. What is it?
That is a salty dog.
And what's a salty dog?
So basically a greyhound with salted rim. So
That doesn't help me either.
Yeah,
So what's a
doesn't help
greyhound?
So it's vodka and grapefruit juice.
Oh,
And with the salt to make it umami, I put a little simple syrup in it.
gotcha. It's delicious. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Well, it's a nice hot day today, so in 1,000 different ways.
Yeah.
So we are recovering,
Yes, we are recovering.
and today we're going to talk about how to be a good girl.
Okay, sounds
Yeah.
great.
So, I want to start off by saying that you are a good girl. And you're very obedient, and you do what I ask of you. And you have some news.
I have some news. Yes, as a good girl today, we are working on our masturbation training.
Yes.
So today, while you were out at business, you had me set up, the GoPro was set up at the chair, and I was told to use the Hitachi for 30 minutes. No coming. Edging only.
Edging only.
If I got into a pickle, I could pull the Hitachi away or give myself a breather. And then at the end of 30 minutes, then I was to put the Hitachi away, lube my fingers, and lightly touch my clitoris and masturbate, basically. And until I come. That was the goal, right?
Yes.
And I'm pretty sure I did. I mean, I think it's funny. People will find that funny, like, what do you mean you don't know? Because I think I'm discovering something about myself.
Which is?
I've heard you and I've heard other people say this before in the past, that depending on what they're doing or using when they're coming, the orgasms can be different. And I do know that in the sense of, like, if I just use a Hitachi, I can go from 0 to 60 quite quickly and come quite quickly. And it has a certain type of feel. That orgasm has a certain type of feel. And then if I'm having anal or mouth or vagina penetration at some point and I'm with my partner, then I have a different type of orgasm, you know.
Yeah.
And those are all different too, varying degrees, but they're identifiable. I have never really had that ability till now to masturbate and really come. Certainly I've masturbated for years and I get wet and it feels great and I just go with it and I didn't worry whether I had an orgasm or not. And then I felt pressure, like I have to have an orgasm with that. And so then about 11 minutes after I started touching myself, I had this really weird ramp up, and my body was reacting like it does when I orgasm, but it just felt so different. It wasn't bad, and it wasn't comparative. It was just different, and I'd never experienced it. So then I was like, and I say I've never experienced it. Well, maybe I have experienced it and overlooked it because it wasn't comparative to the other things that I've said. See, I wasn't really having orgasms in my marriage. So my orgasms were coming from a Hitachi, which is a ramp up hard explosive type orgasm. It doesn't mean it's better. It's just the way it goes, the way it is. So I was always looking for that. Yeah. And maybe I could have been dismissive of other things. I don't know. Or didn't recognize it was happening, right? And then went past it. You know how you're stroking one way and it feels good, and then if you changed it up, oh shit, I lost it. It's gone.
Well, just to remind people, the reason we did this is because you made a statement that you don't come when you masturbate.
Mm-hmm.
Without the touchy. And so we decided to embark on some masturbation training. Yeah. And this is day 2. Day 1 wasn't as successful, but day 2, we introduced a couple of stimulants like the Hitachi in advance, some lube, some intense fantasies, and some light stroking. And on a gradient, you're starting to become present to that you're not broken, that you actually have a working pussy, and that it's fully operational, and that you can create a sense of self, stimulation.
Yeah, I mean, that's fantastic to be able to know you can do that. It's just a new experience for me. I mean, again, I've touched myself since I was a little kid. I mean, it's not like I haven't, but it's always been, other things that were part of the stimulation. I mean, with a partner, there's a whole other mindfuck arousal going on there that just...
Right, I have no trouble bringing you to orgasm.
Yeah, no, that just brings, especially all of it is different. Like if you're vaginally or anally, and then of course if you're orally, they're all different, and they all bring me 0 to the top of the stairs at different lengths of time or intensities. And again, from play session to play session, those are all different. Today was, I don't know what happened. I feel like I broke something inside me. Like I pulled a muscle. I could not stop shaking. Like the nerves were just like firing. Yeah. So that's crazy. And then, when you did that, and then I went down to go suck your cock, I basically I could feel my clit still going bing, 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 still like a blinker.
Yeah. It's funny.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's good. So you were a very good girl today because you did what I asked, and you took on the orgasm masturbation training like a champ. and so now we're going to keep implementing some sort of daily exercise as a we won't call it a protocol, but we'll have a little daily masturbation training to extend your confidence in your ability to bring yourself to orgasm.
Okay.
Yeah, cool.
That's great.
So tell me about what it means to you when I say you're a good girl. What does that mean to you?
Oh, it resonates with me, and I'm not even in my subness. I don't think every sub has to have that word work for them. I mean, I'm not saying that. For me, it really is profound because of my story, partly. And my story created a behavior out of me at a very extremely young age at being a pleaser and so some people would say I'm perfectionistic, but I really don't think I'm perfectionistic. What I am is integral in what needs to get done. Like if it needs to get done, do it the right way. Like if you clean the kitchen and you clean it half-assed, and I'm behind you, I'm not saying you, I'm saying anyone, my grandmother, for example, I will go through and scan it and recognize that it wasn't done, like someone just kind of onced over, and I'll go behind them. I won't tell them they did it wrong, and I won't complain to them. I'll just go behind them and do it correctly. I did that since I was little. We're talking little. 3, 4. And when I do that, often it was for other women who were swamped with raising kids or busy in a busy household, because I came from a huge family. I'm the oldest of 25 grandchildren.
Wow.
And my mom is the oldest of 8 children. So when we had gatherings, as the eldest grandchild, I was in charge of all the kids. And so I learned some skills early. And when I took care of the kids well, I was a good girl, right? I got accolades. When I cleaned up and kept things tidy and got the kids to do it, made a game of it to get them to do it, I was a good girl. So that just got ingrained in me. And I believe part of my philosophy is universal goods. There's just universal things that are, we don't have to be taught by a religion or society or anything. We just know they're good. So I kind of follow that. So that's kind of my construct. So that's my love language in the sense of I like to please. It's weird. Like when I say that out loud, then my switch side goes, huh? But what I like about it is pleasing is arousing to me.
Excellent. Right. So, there are lots of ways you occur as a good girl to me. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking inside of our dynamic.
Sure.
Right. So putting aside the sort of domestic aspects of it,
sure.
just the context of our dynamic. Mm-hmm. Like you set out to, please me in ways that make our dynamic work really super easily. And so that means that anytime we put in a new process or a protocol or a system or whatever, you're like 100% all in.
Yeah.
And that really shows. Right? And so one way that we relate is in our power dynamic. And when I say things like, I'm going to go for a walk, when I come back, you'll be on the floor, by the mantle or whatever. You just go, okay, and that's it, and you just do it. There's never any sort of sense of like unfairness or hierarchy.
I don't feel like that because I'm bought into our power exchange.
Yeah.
And I also think being a good girl is being responsible for the dynamic, for nurturing the dynamic. Just like I think, but I don't think it's only the subs. I think it's both people.
Yeah.
But it's 100% zero, right?
Right.
So the idea is I'm responsible for the dynamic, for the goodwill and the health of the dynamic.
Yeah.
So if it's a power exchange and you ask something of me, unless it's completely out of my scope, at that point I might have questions.
Well, I think it's fair to say, like, a power dynamic doesn't entitle me to ask you to do unethical things.
Right.
It doesn't.
Well, and you haven't, and I trust you. And that's not it. So,
but I think it needs to be said that a power dynamic isn't, I get to break the law on you.
Right.
Right. Like you go break the law instead of me breaking.
Well, I don't know. We're breaking the law every day.
Yeah.
Sodomy.
You sodomy against the law.
Anyway, I just
So it occurs to me that it's important that a power dynamic occurs inside of an ethical construct of a relationship,
and that's consent. That's agreement.
Within agreement, yes,
right.
Consent, yeah.
And so we have this overarching value system that we have created in our dynamic of what we're going for.
Yeah.
So we've agreed to that. We both agree to that power exchange.
Yep.
In our parts that we play in the dynamic. And I say play, but I don't mean play. I mean we're living it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the roles we have. Yeah.
But the roles we have, and we've talked about this before with other relationships in the past. I thought the relationship was happening to me.
Right.
And I kept waiting for the next thing to happen to me, and I believed in whatever, Disneyland's Cinderella and Snow White, and thought I'll just be here, I'm breathing, and it'll happen to me.
Yeah.
Without any engagement.
Right.
I mean, I'd engage once it starts to happen to me, right? Because then that fills my story, my worthiness, that bullshit. And with this, what was so fascinating along the whole process of it, even with the ups and downs of just my own adjustment, I knew I craved that good girl, someone who would appreciate that out of me. That's what I craved, is someone who appreciate the gifts I have to give, my love language to give someone, and then they really appreciate, they value it. I needed that. That's what I needed. Because regardless, I probably can't change the way I'm wired, in the sense that that's my love language and that's how I give my gifts. So no matter who I was with, and I was with someone who didn't appreciate it, I knew that I had to have that. So our dynamic fits like hand in glove perfectly in that mode. And so my battery on the domestic side, let's just say on our regular life side, gets so filled up where it used to get depleted, that I have so much resource available when we get to a scene or playtime that is way beyond. Instead of playtime and our dynamic being a drain on my energy or, ability to be present for you, it isn't. I'm present for you.
Yeah. No, I think we have an interesting experience of our division of duties in our household.
It's kind of unspoken too.
And a lot of it's unspoken, yeah. But I mean, I think we do things like...
But it's not totally...
But it's playful. I mean, it's not. Yeah. It's not like there's...
It's not
like you have a list to check off.
And by a time, or we don't have that type of... Because we're responsible people, so we get things done anyway. Yeah. And I mean, you're doing things I didn't expect. Not that I didn't expect you couldn't do them, but you just do them because you see that you get done. And versus my experience of past has been, I don't mind someone asking me to help or whatever. That has never been an issue. But it has been like someone pointing out, like, you didn't fucking do this. And I'm like, well, I'm fucking doing all these other things that you're not doing. Mm-hmm. And, you could have phrased that different. I probably still would have done it. Mm-hmm. But the reality is, the way you phrased it really puts me off. Turns me off. It turns my love language off completely. And really, at that point, I think what happened is a lot of times he just initiated my switch side all the time. He engaged my switch side, which is probably what he craved.
Sure.
Without telling me. We found that out later. You and I have talked about that. And he was pushing my buttons on my switch side all the time.
Right.
But my loving side was not that.
Right. Well, what's certainly been true in our dynamic is the present self-expression that you have as a submissive good girl. Like, that's extremely out forward for you.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, it is.
Yeah.
And I know you recognize it.
I don't actually encounter your switch side.
No.
Ever.
And it isn't that I say, I got to hold that back.
No, but it never occurs.
But it doesn't come out because that's not what we've created.
Right. Yeah, and we talked earlier on about how to create your partner.
Yeah.
And it's like every action you take creates me, mm-hmm. and every action I take creates you, whether it's intentional or unintentional. Right?
Exactly.
And so the point of my experience with you is to be very intentional about how I relate to you, mm-hmm. and about how I present myself to you, and about how I occur for you, right? And you're doing the same thing. You're also being very intentional about that.
Well, an example would be, and when we used to talk about creation early on.
You mean like early on
in our dynamic? Yeah. I got it, but didn't get it. But like it really, and it's not like I just got it. But your example yesterday was so, like, right there in a creation. Like, so you had said, I had finished a masturbation training or something, and if I was successful, which I had a little blip on the radar, which I thought was success, then I was to go be, and you didn't really define it. You just said you'll be over here, the man. You kind of just referenced, and if you're not successful, you'll still be in the chair. So if I come in and don't see you over there, then I'll know you're still working on it. All right, so I got my little dot on the radar, and I thought, okay, I think that's it. I'm going to go with that because nothing's wrong. This is all training, so nothing's wrong, which is takes the pressure off, And so then I'm like, okay, I got to get ready because he's coming home, and I'm excited. And I went and prepared and got myself down and kneeled and got in the pose and held my collar. You didn't tell me to do any of that, but I knew we're playing. So my collars for playing. When we mark, I'm wearing my chains. I mean, there's things we do, and I look forward to them too, right? So I just sat there, and then you made a comment later, like, that creates me. I didn't tell you to do that, but I come in and see you kneeling, and you're holding your collar, and how that creates me in that moment. And it's interesting, when you said that, I was like, I got what I did, and then I got the real weight of what, without really knowing, because my head's down usually, your experience of me when you come in.
Right. So
and I, at that moment, whether you told me to do that specific or not, felt like a good girl myself. Like my own self was telling myself, I'm being a good girl for this dynamic.
Super good. Like compliant, forward, self-expressed.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of it in the realm of creating our dynamic as a good girl.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's totally the case, right? It's totally the case that, like what we've created is there's nothing wrong.
Yeah.
And here's a task for you to explore. And then here's a task for you to take on. And how you do that is how you do that. And that's what's so. There's no meaning to be made about, did you do it right or wrong? There's no meaning in it
I know, but I made a lot of meaning out of it initially.
Sure,
but
you
yes.
did, right?
But I get that.
But there's no meaning. It's like you masturbated and then you went and knelt over there. That's what happened.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And then when I turned up and I come back and I, wash my hands after I come in and take my mask off, and you're sitting there and you're just kneeling, so presenting yourself, like so present to presenting yourself. It just completely alters the experience of being at home, right? I'm coming home to a submissive who's inviting me to play with her.
Yes.
Do you see that? And so, as a dom and a power exchange, what could be more exciting than that?
It's so exciting. I mean, we were talking, we made this, this hot list. You wrote this. I did too, but I have to add more things to it, but I thought about this even preparing today. I started to laugh because I go, this is hot. I said, because I heard you leave and I was already getting prepared. And I go, this is hot.
Yeah.
I got to put that on the list. And I laughed because then I said, today alone, how many things were hot?
Right.
Well, early in the day, you preface kind of what would be happening in the day.
Right.
And then we both kind of interact with each other as we're working, because I get to telework at home and you're working too. There's some hotness just in acknowledgement.
Sure.
I mean, some people don't think that's hot, but we're not just saying, love you, bye. It's not like that. There's a moment where we stop what we're doing to give each other attention.
Yes.
To acknowledge a moment. So that's hot. And then you go off on work and give me a training task to do, a masturbation task, which is freaking hot.
Freaking hot. Right.
I mean, you're in a meeting and I'm doing that stuff at home.
Right.
And I'm hearing people walk by on the street saying, no one freaking knows what I'm doing right now.
Right.
And then
you send me a text that you said that you had success.
Success.
Right? So I get a text in the middle of this meeting.
In the middle of the meeting.
And I'm just like laughing. It just puts me in a good mood, right?
It's just great. And then you go on an afternoon walk because your day was busy. And tell me what you expect of me to get ready.
Yeah.
And that I'm going to have this much time and da-da-da-da. And all of that puts in a heightened excitement. I'm already excited when we get to play.
Yeah.
Well,
what I said to you before I left is I said, I'm going to reward you when I get back because you were a good girl today.
Yes, you did.
Right?
Yes.
And then I gave you a really great reward. Mm-hmm. I gave you massive orgasms.
Hugely massive orgasms.
Yeah, massive, right?
Yeah.
And so, it's a way of acknowledging your effort at being sexualized today by me in a really positive, sex positive way.
Yeah.
And, by the time we go to bed tonight, you're going to feel like today was like the most awesome day in the history of days.
That's the thing is, what we've created I'm so thankful for this and grateful to have a partner who is involved, like responsible and intentional about the creation every single day newly.
Yeah.
Not just, we're going to create this relationship. Because that's kind of like what people say when they're doing a marriage. They say, we're going to create this marriage.
Right.
And on the day, there's all these vows and all these things, right? And God knows who really, truly remembers their vows.
Right.
Okay? And then we kind of just get in the role of life.
Yeah.
And then life just kind of goes. Because usually, before you get married, especially in modern times, these people have usually more than likely lived together before they got married. They've been in coexistence for a while. Several years, something along that. If not, they've been over at each other's places quite a bit. So it's going to be a year or something of time that they've spent. So they're used to a rhythm, if you will. And no one's taught us up to this point, really, truly in relationship. We don't have classes on relationships.
There's no training on how to make love last.
You're taught how to drive a car, but no one tells you how to deliver a baby. Not really.
Or what to do when you get home with a baby.
Or what to do when you get home with a baby, or what it is like to be married. I know there are marriage counselors in some religious faiths actually have you go through.
Yeah, it doesn't come close.
But it's not close because let's be honest. There's a disconnect between real life and religious life, and what you're doing in the bedroom. It's completely different.
I mean, there's just no actual training.
Yeah.
For how to make a relationship work. Like you don't. Part of it is that people don't deal with their stories. They're stuck inside their story. And
or they don't. They're stuck inside, and they also, if they do know their story, they don't know how to set it aside.
Well, they make meaning out of everything. Yeah. Right. And and that's why the divorce rate's 50%. Right. So we obviously don't know how to do this as a society. Right. If we're failing half the time, and if you look at the other half of those marriages are really unhappy.
Right.
Right. So there's probably only about a quarter of marriages
people are surviving.
Actually feel like the couple is sort of super interested and happy.
And those other marriages that are surviving might be not first marriages.
They might be
second or third where people finally figured it out. I mean, that's really probably what's happening.
Yeah.
But what I love is, even this morning when I got up, and I should be setting an alarm because I got to get up so god-awful early. I'm usually getting up at 5. And so and it's getting lighter. Right. In the morning. So I look up and I see how light it is. I'm like, shit, I'm late. Yeah. And I'm only like 10 minutes late from getting up because I have to text people and stuff. Right. And I look over and you're sleeping so soundly. And I have a moment every morning. I usually kiss you on whatever's body part's exposed. I kiss you to try not to disturb you too much. And just am thankful that I get to start my day with this wonderful person beside me. Yeah. And then I go off and go work, and you'll get up later at a more sane time. And that's the intentionality of me getting up in the day.
That's how you start.
That's how I start. I used to get up, not look at didn't know whether he was sleeping, didn't care what side he was on, just got up out of bed and left.
Yeah. Okay, so you start your day with a loving action, and the last thing we do at night is we have a loving action as we go to sleep, right? Yeah. We hold each other in a particular way that, creates
intimacy and closeness.
Right. And so, so being a good girl in this dynamic for you means that you speak your love language, you're acknowledged for your contribution, you're supported in your self-expression, and you get to fully explore what it means to be submissive, fully explore it. Yeah, and you get to do it in a way where there's love and there's trust and there's connection and relatedness. Yeah, and you're experiencing a life of happiness and joy and excitement and multiple orgasms.
Multiple orgasms.
Yeah, and delicious food.
And delicious food.
And great drinks.
Cocktails. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So we're living life large. Yeah. And the way that that's occurring is because you're stepping into your self-expression as a good girl.
Yeah, isn't that
interesting?
So wild. It's true though, and I probably, if you asked me 5 or 6 years ago, you know, are you a good girl? I would be, I know I was, but I would be like kind of defensive, like, okay, but that just doesn't go anywhere.
Well, you know, in the vanilla world, to tell an adult woman she's a good girl is a stigma.
Yeah, totally.
You know?
Totally.
And for you to consider your lover your daddy is a stigma. In the vanilla world.
Totally
right?
true. And
whereas in this kink world, it's a dynamic.
Well, you know what? I want to speak to that real quick, because culturally, there's different cultures that often the dynamic, whether they're BDSM or not, whether they're kink or not, just culturally, the female to male they'll relate often very affectionately and say, "Daddy, do you want this?"
Yeah.
And that's their thing. And I got exposed to that early in college. I lived with 4 other fraternity brothers. Like my ex and I were living together at the time, and we lived with other fraternity brothers in this one apartment, run shackle down apartment. And the manager of the building was Samoan, I believe, and she had married some GI. But she's still culturally where she was, and she was, and she loved me, so I would go down there often for tea and things like that. And she would say, "Oh, yo, daddy's home," or "Daddy with this," and da da da. And she was like 65.
Interesting. Yeah, I think I do think that there's that expression. I'm not sure it implies what it implies.
It may not imply the same thing.
What we're up to. Yeah. So I feel like we could go on and on.
Yeah, and there's probably other divisions of good girl and things like that. I just think based on what we just did with play, I think that comes up pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, for me, you know, for me it occurs as a natural black relationship, because part of my self-expression is to be a daddy dom.
And I've asked you this before about, do you like conflict? Do you want conflict?
No.
Which isn't, I asked that kind of rhetorically.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I could do that.
No, it's not about wanting to discipline you with punishment for being a brat. That's not what I mean by being a daddy dom. Like, for me, it's about training you to be fully self-expressed in a way that pleases me completely. Right? And so that's why we fit so well together, because like I talked about in one of our episodes about the range of the dynamic, like left and right and up and down. Like, if you look at it like it's a big whiteboard, you could put your dot anywhere on that board.
Right.
And you know, that's a relationship. That dot could be like left to right. It could be intensity, and up and down. It could be related to, you know, potentially authoritarianism.
Sure.
Right. So I can go. I'm not as authoritarian, but I'm super intense, and so my dot will end up over here.
Right.
And you know, by absolute coincidence, your dot landed pretty close to my dot. Right. So now the question is, how do we train you so our dots are in exactly the same place?
Yeah.
And that's how this occurs for me, because
that's a great way of explaining it.
Yeah, and that's how it occurs for me, because your love language fits my love language, and your predilection toward the way you explore your masochism fits my construct for sadomasochism.
Sure.
And you know, your desires at a sexual level to be a 3-hole whore, for example, fit my experience of what I expect the women in my life to live up to as a sexual creature. And so there's so many ways we align sexually, but then beyond that, we have other elements in our life that align also, which make it easy.
Yeah.
And you know, like, that's the best part of this, is that we don't have conflict anywhere in our experience together. And so we can literally put our attention on and focus on your training to bring our like sexual lives into a complete overlap, so that, you know, there's really no space between us. in any possible way, and we're committed to no space. And so,
yes, we are.
So there's so many things that we're up to that sort of plug in a really nice way that I'm super satisfied with your the way you're creating yourself as a good girl in this dynamic.
Yeah.
Right? It's perfect for me.
Which is
and
great.
So it's really easy. Like I'm a low conflict person. Like I don't want conflict.
Right.
I'm happy to have conflict if conflict arises.
Oh, you'll deal with conflict. I've seen you.
Yeah. Like I'll take anybody on. You know, but I don't want it. It's not like that's my.
You're not seeking it out.
No.
No.
And so it's much easier for me to enjoy my life like fully if I know that you're 100% aligned and on board with what we're up to.
Yeah.
And I have way less concern about like how to move you in a particular direction.
Mm-hmm.
And so what's been really great is it's taken like no effort to train you to be exactly who you want to be, you know?
Yeah, I've been craving it for a long time.
You've been craving. I've just kind of opened a door here. You
Yeah.
said, "Oh, I'm going through that door.
I'm going to walk through it. Yeah, I'm running through it.
Yeah. So anyway, I think I'm complete in this conversation. Are you?
I'm feeling complete.
Okay, good.
Okay, good.
Me too.
That's it for today. You can find us on your favorite podcast directory. We also have an RSS feed. If you're interested in online coaching for Kinksters or online domination, you can visit our Patreon website at Lady Petra Playground. And if you're having comments or suggestions or drink ideas for our podcast, you can email me at ladypetraplayground@gmail.com.
That's it.
That's it.
Cheers.
Cheers.